Hi, and welcome to the season 19 of the Productized Podcast. Productized Conference 2025 is just around the corner. I hope you have the tickets yet. And on this podcast season, we're all about the topic of create change together with Productized 2025. That's why I'm super happy to have today with us Dave Martin, someone that is super deep in the product world for, I guess, 20 years now. He's been a chief product officer before. He opened the companies like Right to Left, Confidence In. You work in companies that we all know and love, like Adobe, help companies like Contentful, and so much more. It's also not the first time Dave is on this podcast. If you've been taking notes, 6 months ago, you've been on the podcast with us, so it's the second time. So if you have not seen the first time, probably want to take a look at it. And for people that may not know you, Dave, first, welcome to the show. And then, who is Dave?
Hi, Pedro. Well, thank you very much for having me back. It's nice to be back talking with you. And I'm great mentioning Productized conference around the corner. I'm super excited for the leadership forum, which I'm helping you guys with. So I can't wait for that day. Who is Dave? Well, I mean, a really quick, short answer is I spend most of my time coaching and training product leaders on not on product, but on product craft, but instead on leadership and leadership training, and to help make that jump from being a product manager into leadership, which is a whole different skill set. Thankfully, though, a lot of the things we all learn as product managers to be great as a PM are easy to great training and grounding to laterally move those skills into leadership and become a really successful leader. So I think it's a really nice pathway. So I work with CPOs mainly and VPs of product across all sorts of organizations, ranging from GitLab and Adobe all the way through to Series A, Series B startups. Some quite a few at the moment in health tech and life sciences, which is really exciting. But the main aim is to help. My main mission is to improve employees' lives and improve the products that the engineers and product managers are building. So they through better leadership, through leadership.
I think you are the right candidate for that leadership day on 15th of October. For people that are not aware, Productize is hosting a 3-day event. On the first day, there will be a Leaders Day, and that Dave will be in charge of it, being the MC, running the roundtables. I think we're going to be a very interesting day. I'm looking forward for it as well, and maybe we can even focus on some of the things you just said, the traits of becoming a leader, because as a product managers, I think the first early of our career, we really dwell with I don't know what I need to do. So many skills I need to master. I'm a master of all skills. How do you say the master of none? Jack of all trades, master of none in junior PM. But when you go to the leadership positions, senior PM and above, probably not even senior PM, like more VP roles, what does it change the most from these two positions?
I mean, the main thing that changes as you move from being an individual contributor, from being the product manager, is that you're no longer the one responsible for doing that work, for doing that, doing the discovery or digging into the problems the customer has, or sitting with engineers and helping them understand the problems and designers. And you're not part of that daily cadence anymore. And that can be quite a change for some people. It's also quite a lonely place. You're no longer, your team is different. You're now part, especially if you've leveled up into the leadership team. Your primary team is the leadership team, the executive team, and the teams that work with you below you are your secondary teams. So it's and that's a big transition. It takes a long time for that to happen. It's hard. I think about it in two big ways. I think about what is it that what are the things great product leaders need to do, and what's the best way that they can do them. So we think about the two different things. What are the things to do? So what are the activities and responsibilities? And what's the best way in order to actually do those things? And if we do the two things, if we've got both of those aspects correct, if we're focusing on the right things, such as strategy, vision, performance, principles, evidence, storytelling, staff configuration, hiring, and coaching, they're the right things, then we need to do them the right way. And we think about that with an acronym called CALM leadership, CALM, calm leadership.
What does it stand for?
CALM stands for clarity, authority, learning, and momentum. And calm leaders, and this is the right way rather than the right things, calm leaders create great clarity across the whole organization. They don't expect their audiences and the organization to talk their language. They translate. So they don't go into a board meeting and talk about product discovery. They translate it to the words that people in the room would understand, which in that case is probably the word due diligence, because that's what investors do. They translate to the audience rather than expecting everybody else to speak product.
Okay.
They're phenomenally good at communicating complex things much more simple. And that's really hard for some people, especially product people who like being in the detail. We have to take them away from the detail in order to simplify and abstract from that all the ins and outs and all the edge cases. So we remove a number of edge cases and come out to the top level to make things simpler. Then we create clarity. And they're constantly, to create clarity, the exceptional leaders are constantly reminding everybody of the purpose, constantly aligning people to the same goals, the same objectives, and the same purpose.
And what does authority stands for then?
So authority is around, if you may have heard the phrase executive presence. You may have been lucky enough to work with a leader who is incredibly good at creating that clarity, but then helping everybody believe it, feel part of it, and have some level of authority that's not dictatorship. That's very important. Authority
it's more for respecting.
It's mission control, not command control, but somebody who can sell our mission and everybody's on board with it and has that presence. So that authority piece is about influencing, being able to influence well, and recognize that as a leader, pretty much every meeting you ever walk in is a negotiation. Pretty much every conversation you have is a negotiation. Either the person talking to you wants you to do something for them, or you want them to do something for you. It's always a negotiation. So great, exceptional leaders recognize that, and they're always ready to influence and negotiate in the right way to get the best thing for the business and for the people in the business and for the customer. They're always mapping to purpose. They're bringing money and budget in when it's required. Authority requires trust. So that means exceptional leaders never lie or make stuff up. And it might seem such an obvious thing to say.
It is not.
But when you're under pressure and everyone's looking at you and you don't know the answer, sometimes the temptation just to make it up on the spot is very high. Humans are incredibly good lie detectors. They don't know for sure that somebody's lying, but they know for sure something feels off. We're very good at spotting a warning signal. And if you want to build trust and executive presence, you have to, and that authority, you can't be lying and making stuff up. And then the other aspect there is leaders that have that authority in the right way. They use the power of questions heavily. They use lots of questions. You may have worked with some leader who can come into a room and the meeting has not been involved in the project and then asks a question and everyone's like, oh my God, that's such a good question. And it's causing, how do we answer that? Oh, that's so obvious. They use the power of questions brilliantly. And ironically, it turns out that you don't need to know very much about the problem to use the power of questions really well and make an impact. It's just that nobody else was asking the obvious questions. And coupled with that, you're really deliberate with your words. Very careful with what words you choose to use and what words you don't. So that's clarity and authority. If you think about learning is about always listening. Recognizing we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we talk. Always listening. And always being curious and asking questions. Always self-aware, know their weaknesses and they know their strengths, which is and make decisions based on that. They openly admit their own mistakes. We can't learn unless we make mistakes, and We can't create a learning culture unless we're vulnerable and show everyone else that it's okay to be vulnerable and that's safe, linked to the psychological safety. And they go into the detail to learn when it's needed, not go into the detail by default, go into the detail when it's needed and there's something to learn. And then that last one, momentum, that's about scaling leaders around you, scaling the people around you. If you scale the people around you and help them grow, they lift you up. But if you don't and try and just grow yourself and suppress the people around you, you can't go very high.
And you are not a leader to begin with.
So, and then in the same momentum piece, we want to bias impact, not activity. We want to be somebody who, and this is really important, to have momentum can sustain, it has to be sustainable. So it's very important to put the well-being first. And that's well-being first of your own well-being as a leader. If you're stressed and burning out, you are not going to be able to help the people around you. You're useless to them. So you've got to put yourself first. And that can sometimes feel selfish, but you've got to look after yourself. And then secondly, looking after everybody else and encouraging good well-being of the people around you. And then very last for momentum is you've got to make fast and bold decisions and recognize that the speed and boldness of the decision is more important than whether it's the right one.
You packed so
If
many
you're
things
learning,
in this 4-letter framework.
yeah, that's in calm. Yeah. Clarity, authority, learning, momentum.
That's so much that I wanted to dig into it, because this is, we can end the podcast right now. I think it's 5 minutes in and already dropped so much insights in this single intervention. I want to go back to some of the things you said before, when you started saying that leadership is a lonely place. Actually, just the other day I was having a podcast with Rich Mironov, and we were talking exactly the same thing. And I don't think I don't see the people talking about this often. That we all praise so much leadership as a go-to place in my career ladder. People really want to go there and fight for these kind of leadership roles. I, I don't know if people are aware that the higher you go, the lonelier it gets. And I learned this lesson from a previous boss of mine. I shared this with Rich the other day on the podcast. Like, the team always goes to me for some insights or on things that they have some troubles with the team. They always go to me. Then I go to my leader, and then I ask, "Who do you go to? Who do you go to when you have like these issues?" And I said, and then he actually said these words, like, "The higher you go, the lonelier it gets." And you enriched me enough the other day, and now you saying exactly the same thing. And people don't talk about this often, when they talk about leadership, but how lonely it is.
I mean, Rich is a great guy. He's awesome. It's always amazing when I chat with Rich, and I totally agree with him. It's a super lonely place, and you don't even have to be at the top for it to be lonely, because once you're on a certain career path, you become nervous about, if I ask those questions, is that going to help me? Is that going to look good? Is that good for my personal brand? Am I expected to know the answer to this? Does it show that perhaps I'm not good enough to be in the role? Will it risk me getting the promotion I might want? So I think it can, as soon as you're on that track, it can suddenly become a lonely place. And when you are, when you're CPO, unless you've got a very strong executive team, and unfortunately, many companies don't. They have very strong individuals in executive roles, amazing people, but that doesn't mean they're working together as a team in an amazing way. There can be lots of politics and internal disagreements and different agendas. It can be hard. Unless you've got a strong executive team, you don't have anywhere to go. This is why leadership coaching is so important for leaders. The people I coach one-to-one, and I do some coaching where we do it in groups, and the one-to-one people use me regularly as a sounding board. So I'm their place. Where did they go? They send me a WhatsApp. And
You are the go-to guy sometimes, just
yeah,
to
I'm the
unload
go-to
some
guy.
of the frustrations and
That's it. And sometimes the coaching session might feel like therapy, so they can get all the frustrations off their plate and let go.
and sometimes it's all it's needed, right? Yeah, to have
But
someone to go to unload some of
that's it.
these.
And when we do group coaching sessions, or like last couple of weeks ago, we ran the product leader retreat, which is very, very intimate, nothing like a conference, very intimate, just 12 to 16 people in a room, going through a bunch of exercises together. And we do the same thing online in our membership, on Confidence in Membership. And the value there, that so often when we talk with individuals and say, you keep coming to this event, or you keep coming to this, you keep enjoying the membership. You're not cancelling. You turn up every week, and the answer is often, it so helps me hear everybody else has the same problem.
Yeah, just
And
I'm
when they say
alone,
it,
but I'm not alone in the
that's it. It's like,
collective experience of leadership.
it's the same for everybody. This is normal.
Yeah.
And the other angle is often the problems they're talking about, which I don't have yet. I've learned that I'm about to have them.
Well, you're prepared already. Toughen up a
Exactly.
little bit before it happens.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to point at this because I think it's a very insight I wanted people to get it. Like the higher they go, the lonelier it gets. Not in a pity or sorrow way, like we are alone. No, it's just like the more aware people are about it, maybe the better, because it can also be a nice place being alone, as long as you are okay with yourself. Like you need to develop this inner resilience of, yeah, the stakes are higher. There will be less people to go to. It is what it is. It's part of it's the perks of the role. I think people will accept it also and are aware, first being aware of it and then accept it. It's easier to then endure some of the things. And then you mentioned two things that I also want to point out, which is coaching could be really helpful, just to have someone to go to when you don't have to. And on one, you community, having these peer groups that are not accountable for you, but someone where you can resonate with, makes it feel less lonely. Super good. Thanks for this, Dave. It was really nice insights.
I would say
Inspired, educational,
overwhelming, very practical,
challenging,
thought-provoking,
meaningful,
enthusiastic,
nice people,
innovation, and fun.
Product growth mindset.
new connections.
Join us at the coolest product management environment this October in Lisbon.
Then some other things that you said on the calm framework: clarity, authority, learning, momentum. You packed so much in each of these words. But then I just to challenge you on something, which is, then what is the difference of a product leader than any other leader, any engineer, manager? What are the key traits that are special about these roles?
So in reality, I don't think there's anything difference between the calm framework, whether you are a CTO, a CRO, a head of HR, because that's about how you lead. We talked about at the very beginning two different things. I have something I call the product leader map. I wrote this in 2021. You can go, and if you type product leader map into Google, you'll find a nice article on Mind the Product talking all about it, explaining it in detail. And that was when I mentioned the things product leaders do: strategy, performance, vision, etc., etc. And the things we've got to do are very unique to product. Now, at a high level, those words sound generic, but obviously product strategy is different from marketing strategy, which is different from sales strategy. So when thinking about how we configure product teams is different to how we might configure sales teams. So that at that point, the things leaders do are unique to product. But then we put the calm lens on top of it. So we have these two models: the product leader map of what it is what I should be doing, and then the calm leadership to help me do it in the most effective way. And yeah, the second piece anybody could embrace calm and find that powerful, regardless of what function.
Okay, so it's more for leaders in generic framework, not
Just
specific to
purely,
product.
yeah. When I coach it though, and when we train it, we use the examples and we talk about it, and all our tools and frameworks and exercises we have. Say storytelling, we have a storytelling tool. When we do this at I mean confidencing.co, when we're doing that, we're thinking about that calm model with examples of product leaders, with examples of our domain as product people, like speaking the right language of the audience. That would be very different for a sales, but which is part of character. That would be very different for a sales leader than it would be for a sales leader would be having to translate business language to technologists or to product people. That's very different to product people having to translate their language to tech leaders. So whilst at a generic level, it could easily, anybody who's in leadership would benefit. When we train it, we're focused entirely on how product leaders would embrace that and use that. So we're giving them, for example, questioning. When we teach the power of questioning and we talk about using vision questions and different power questions, we're using questions that relate to working with engineers and designers and with sales stakeholders. We're using that from the perspective of a product person. At its abstract level, I think it's 100% right. It could fit anybody, but I only work and help people in the product with a product lens. So we heavily put a product lens on it.
They're in the same language and the specifics
psychology
of the
level
topics.
would be the same, but the execution would be different.
Got it.
And I
And
think that's important with leadership, really important, because generic leadership training leaves it up to the individual to work out how to actually pragmatically do it in real world, in their world. When you have leadership training that's got a functional slant, the individuals are the people who are learning and growing, the leaders, they're able that we're taking some of the pain away from them. They haven't got to try and work that out for themselves. They're
it's a bit more targeted than the
exactly.
straight
They're
outcomes.
busy people. They need it to be as convenient as possible. We're in reality, what we're talking about with all of this is creating new habits, forming new habits as a product leader.
Which is tough when you go to these positions, because you just said before, and sorry to interrupt you, but the moment you go to leadership, it's much more about people. You mentioned hiring, coaching, thinking about individuals, and a bit more about strategy, the vision, the mission, what we're going to do, and less about the customer, the product itself, the discovery. How do you let people release the anxiety of let it go? And even if you see the team probably is not working the direction you thought they should, how do you advise people in this specific transition where they need to let go?
I think the trick there, and it sounds almost too simple, it's about helping set the mission and helping your teams go the right direction. So if you feel it's off, if you're feeling like, I think we might be prioritizing the wrong things here, and perhaps we aren't aligned to the strategy or the mission that we're trying to achieve, perhaps the execution is going off course, should we call it? We have two choices. You either go in and direct them and tell them this is wrong, we've got to do it differently, and this is how I want you to do it, or you need to help guide them and give them the right questions and the right information and that challenge in the right way with good questioning to help your team recourse correct themselves. Now, the second one, where the team course correct, normally means they correct to a better, more optimal course than you would have given them.
I would say there's a third option. It's going on the authority lens that you were talking before, like mission control. You can just go dictatorship. No. Let's do this way. You can guide them, like the second option you're giving them, like, guys, this is what I believe, like being more educational about it so that they learn from the experience. That's the third option, probably you didn't mention, which is let them fail and learn it.
Yeah, let them fail. Well, and the challenge with the let them fail is
the cost for the business.
And that is there's nothing wrong with that option. So I think you've got to consider. I often work with companies that can't afford that.
Yeah,
I often work with sort of Series A, Series B companies who have got a very limited runway.
There's just no time for all these
can't afford to let that happen. Now, obviously, because often the things I'm working with people on are pretty critical to their business success. Obviously, there's lots of that. That's what we just talked about. There's going to be lots of examples. It might be something incredibly critical. It might be something far less critical. And I think where it's less critical, we have an opportunity to let the individual fall
Have
over and
his
make a
judgment
mistake, fall on their own.
Mhm.
And that's absolutely fine if we can let them do that. I think there's a really nice way of thinking about this as well. At times you do have to do the tell. There is a point in time where you do need to just say and be that dictator and say, no, we're doing it this way. There is a point in time for that. And there's a very good model to help leaders know when that is. It's called the leadership situation model. I can't remember who made it up. It's been around for decades, typically taught on MBAs. And
Can you repeat that? The
the
leadership.
leadership situation model.
Mhm.
And what this model does is it makes you consider for every single, whatever it is, every situation with an individual that you're working with, what's their motivation and what's their capability. If their motivation is very low and their capability around the situation in hand is also very low, you need to help them much more hands-on. Then maybe they're more junior or less experienced in this particular topic. They're going to need more hands-on support. If their motivation is high, or or indeed their capability is high, and maybe their motivation is low, so one of those two is high or low,
Mhm.
we need to support or coach them. We need to hold their hand. We need to be there. We need to do that guide, or we need to do. We either need sort of more mentorship, or we need to be guiding them. Coaching is where we're only using questions. If their capability is high and their motivation is high, then we can 100% delegate and just ask them to do that. Leave it up to them 100%.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was not aware of the naming of the leadership situation model, but by the description you said, I received the leadership training that reflects exactly what you said. These two axes of the motivation and capacity and capability. I mean, and because before receive that training, I was a bit more naive, a bit more like I wouldn't say Martin King but more like every team should be super autonomous, everyone can fill at their pace, but that's not exactly right. Depending on the seniority you have ahead of you, maybe sometimes you need like a small leash. You need to be coaching like real micromanagement. Sometimes can be a good thing because people get very quick feedback because they are juniors. They need a little bit of micromanagement in the sense that they can learn much faster. So then they get autonomous, then get motivated, then get the capability, then they get loose. It's very
And
important that
what's
you do this.
interesting about that, Pedro, is it changes based on the situation and the individual, not just the individual. So what a mistake that leaders fall into regularly, they think about that model about just the individual. They think, this person's less experienced and they don't seem very motivated. I will do X. I'll act this way with them. But depending on the situation, that's not true. There is a different ask, a different situation, a different task. Maybe they're going to you want them to work on where they are more experienced or where they are more motivated. It depends on every situation, not just the individual. So we mustn't put people in a box and feel like, I have to micromanage this person. Equally, the other way, they could be highly performant, really capable, highly motivated, and you delegate all the time. And what they're feeling is this particular task, I don't feel comfy, I'm not capable, and you just give me no help and support ever. So you can't put people in the box. It's the situation combined with the individual. And that's really important to recognize.
100%. This could be controversial. If you just say micromanagement sometimes is the good option, people will be like, no, micromanagement, everyone knows it's a bad thing. Well, on the contrary, like then it's for the leadership to decide and make that call when an individual in that context, not just individual in that context needs to be micromanaged. Like, give me a feedback in 20 minutes. How is it going? At the end of the day, let's do a report. What you're going to do tomorrow. Sometimes some people need this very tight leash so that they get oriented and
I'll
guided.
I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with business, nothing to do with making software. I started my career, my very first job ever while I was still a student was teaching windsurfing and sailing. So small dinghy boats on lakes. And if you take a new person who's never been on a sailing boat ever and just give them the rope, sit them in the boat, give them the tiller, the rudder, and push the boat into the water, I can tell you what's going to happen. Either, firstly, they're going to be very scared, and very soon they're going to be very wet. That would be complete autonomous.
Which is a good thing, everyone says. It's a good
not
thing.
going to work, is it? They're going to capsize, they're going to get very wet very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just go nowhere, floating aimlessly. But if the first time they go in the water, you're in the boat with them, showing them how to do it, showing them first how it's done, and then the second out, and then you progress to they're doing it, but you're sat with them, pointing out what's wrong and able to move maybe put your hand on the rudder with them. And then you progress and you're not touching the rudder. Maybe you're at the front of the boat there and they feel like they're running the show. And then you progress where you're not in the boat, you're in a motorboat watching them. And then finally you're on the shore. It's no different. If it's a new capability, new skill set that I don't have, and I need somebody's support to grow and learn it, I can learn all on my own. Of course I can. But I can go and get the lovely resources online and get GPT to tell me how to do it. But I'm on my own still. And without support, it's always going to be slower, more difficult, far more demotivating. And the other point that it's not just micromanaging, it's also giving recognition. Those kind words pointing out how well you're doing this thing, and you've got that right, and this is looking really good. And all of this is not just tell, it's more deeper than that. So I think it's really important to recognize, and this is less leadership really, even though it's called the leadership model. Strictly speaking, this is more management than leadership. If we're really getting gritty about it, this is more about management. But we've got to be able to do both, and it's crucial that we are. And if you only have one, if you only rely on one style of leadership or management, then you're never going to be able to support your teams through all the hurdles they face.
I'm very happy we went on this path because that's another topic that could be controversial and people don't usually mention this. That there's not every time autonomy. Sometimes you need to be closer to the teams, which is the actually good thing a leader could have to do. I knew the first 5 minutes we were talking, you did the entire podcast because I still have a few more things to unpack from this for initial statements you said. Another thing you said I found interesting in the momentum part. We need to be able to not only run the show, guide the teams, work on the strategy, but keep it going, being able to scale, work with the people so that they can also grow. This is not a me game. But then you said something which is about your sanity. Again, because this is such a lonely position, you need to think about yourself first and then think about the team. And I immediately thought about that, that airplane announcement in the beginning of a travel, put your mask first on you, then the kids. That seems a bit counterintuitive, but then in the end, if you're not good within yourself, how can you be for others? And this led me to a question, which is I found a blog of yours that I found interesting, The Power of 5 Calm Minutes, where one of the latest posts you did on the confidentproductleader.com. People should probably check it out, theconfidentproductleader.com, where you mentioned they should have just a small tips like clear mind, recognize wins, declutter tasks, having one intention for the day, and then question the pressure. Do you want to go talk a little bit about it? Because I feel it's important for leaders that are listening to us. We know that it's a burden position, all the deadlines, all the pressure, the executive suit on you. Why is it important for leaders to learn also to decompress themselves? And some tips how now they can do it.
Sure. I think your plane analogy is wonderful. Clearly, if you lose all the air whilst trying to put a mask on somebody else, you're never going to be, both of you are going to end up in a sticky place. So whilst perhaps less fatal, it's still true. If we feel stressed as leaders and we're letting that get on top of us, and our ability and resilience is getting to its max, how we act, how we behave, the decisions we make, the way we talk, the way we might react to other people and snap maybe where we don't want to. It's all going to result in having a huge impact on those around us, and a very negative impact. And normally that's happening because we're in a tough place. There's hard things going on, which means the people around us are probably struggling as well. So if we've got we're all in the same plane, and you're in a metaphor, and we've got to be the ones that help first, because that's part of our responsibility. And mental well-being and looking after ourselves is crucial. And the blog you mentioned on the newsletter on Confidence Product Leader is just really simple, very simple tip, that very simple routine that everybody can do on a regular basis. It's extremely easy, and it's broken into those 5 areas you just mentioned. But what it's really doing is, firstly, it's using the power of breathing as a good mental exercise, just to help you calm, reduce stress levels. It's been proven scientifically that that's a valuable technique, and it's so ridiculously easy to do and takes so little time, and you can do it anywhere. You could be feeling a little stressed in a meeting and just start that breathing exercise in the meeting. No one will know you're doing it, and just calm the levels to get back so you can think straight. We're really good, especially in leadership, at focusing on what we've got to achieve, where we've got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, that means we focus a lot on what isn't working, because that's our job.
Yeah,
If we only focus on what's
evolution,
working,
deep progress. What's not there yet?
yeah, what's not working, that's the stuff we've got to do. So we can very often forget all the great things that have happened, and we need to identify that and recognize that. Perhaps an easy phrase that you can think of. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So recognizing every foot forwards, every step is a win. Every step is slightly closer to that end. So every step deserves celebrating. And if we don't, we're not going to recognize the progress we're making. There's a different way of thinking about that, a bit more, that you could think about it as the difference between perception and perspective. Perspective is the facts, what's actually happening. I'll give you a super quick example. Imagine for a second that you're outside at the bottom of a big cliff. You're a big mountain with a huge cliff. And you're looking up at this mountain, and you can see these little figures at the top, and it looks like they're walking around. It's like, oh my God, how did they climb that cliff? My perception is that it's extremely hard to get to the top. Incredibly difficult. Now, I might carry on walking past this cliff to the other side of the hill and see that there's this very nice gravel path that meanders up, hardly ever much of a gradient, to the top of the hill. But actually, now my perception is it's extremely easy to get to the top of the hill. That's perspective. But the perspective is it's actually not that hard to get to the top. My perception is I'm making it, from my viewpoint, it looks really hard. So I think celebrating wins is incredibly important to help reset your perception closer to the reality of what's going on, rather than the hole you're digging for yourself and the trap you feel and the difficulty and the pain. When you are able to get a better perception, closer to the truth, closer to the real perspective, now I can bring myself up and be like, of course we can hit this, of course we can do these things that seem impossible, they're not impossible. We are going to go and do them. So it's really important, even if they're tiny wins, because it's about keeping that better perception. The decluttering tasks is just about getting rid of noise. There's this really simple way of thinking about things. Everything if you want to achieve a goal, every piece of information, every activity you choose to do to achieve that goal, let's call that signal. They're the things that once I do them, I'm gonna hit the goal. Everything else that goes on is noise. Now, if we get rid of all the noise, we're going to be robots. We wouldn't be asking people how they are. We wouldn't care about their feelings, because none of that, all that stuff is not important in achieving the goal. So we want some noise. Noise is important, very. But we need the level right. If the noise is very high and the signal is very small, we have a problem. We need it the other way around. So decluttering tasks and being clear and be able to see where you're going is just removing getting that noise to signal ratio in a more healthy place so we can move forward quicker and easier, especially if we get rid of the noise that's really not productive in any way for anybody. Plenty of those things.
And one good thing about this blog post of yours is that it's ridiculously simple to do and yet really hard to stick with it. Like you said in the post, this is like a 5 minutes exercise, but you need to really stop at your desk with your pen and mind and think about this stuff. It's ridiculously simple to do once and ridiculously hard to do it 60 days.
Really hard. Yeah. Yeah. And that's habit. That comes back to habit
Mhm.
on how you create and form habits.
It's so funny because just 2 days ago, at the moment, I'm being a bit more stressed about all the things I've been saying yes to. Just 2 days ago, I was thinking I should go back to that journal of mine. I have like this journal that has the framework super simple that actually says recognize the win, what it was the good thing about today. You need to write it down. What was the good thing? Like focusing on these wins. What is the one thing you want to achieve today? Exactly like you mentioned. Another exercise I often do when I'm more stressed, I do in my notebook something I call task dump. I put everything from little chores from house. We need to buy something for a lamp that broke, or I need to do this big project for my whatever. I put everything down, and then I make the question, what if I don't do anything? And I immediately get like nervous about one thing. And that's the one I recognize to be important one.
Awesome. I love that. That's great advice.
Yeah.
But
And it often is good at to get the perspective you're saying, because when I put the dump, I literally call it dump, and I put a bullet list of all the things I are buzzing my mind, from little to big, no specific order, and give me a ton of perspective. Like, no, I actually don't need to do this, or actually I have like 5 of those that takes me literally 1 minute, and they are on the back of my mind. And when I see them, I get this perspective you were talking about. So, and resonates a lot with the blog post you wrote.
it's amazing. I hope people can take that advice and have a go at it. And the habit piece is realizing you've got to keep doing this even when you don't feel stressed.
Yeah, that's when it feels.
Instead of using it as a cure, let's use it as prevention and never end up in that place.
This is the tough part that I am still struggling with, to be honest, because I only remember about these tools whenever I need them, and probably I needed them more when I'm in a calmer situation, so that things don't go off the rails. But it's really tough. And also, people need to also be kind with themselves. Like, it's okay to fail, and they will fail. It's part. It just makes part. Dave, I've been loving we're just digging into the first 5 minutes of this conversation, digging in on this calm framework you said. But now I want to go to a different topic about product roadmaps. I've been reading some things of you. What is your take on product roadmaps? Are they evil? Are they necessary evils? Are they good? Are they being addressed in a wrong way? Expand a little bit on the topic, please. Probably not for leaders, but for these intermediate levels of people that are responsible for building the product roadmap. Yep.
I think it's a communication tool. It should be used as a communication tool, not as, and we've got to recognize that if it's a communication tool, it's setting expectation, and it's gets misused as being the main commitment. And I think the problem with how a lot of roadmaps get communicated is they get communicated as a
Contract.
exactly a contract in stone. And as soon as we write down in stone, and normally they're solutions, not problems or opportunities or outcomes, regardless of people's advice. Normally normally they've got dates on and a list of features. That's a release plan, and that's a commitment. And the second we make that commitment, especially if we're in a culture where breaking that commitment is going to be difficult, and it really is, if you go show that to the board, if you are a leader, that's very hard to then go back and say we didn't do it. you're accidentally using the roadmap and making yourself accountable for it. It means that any learning we have about doing it a better way, solving the problem a better way, or maybe solving a better problem, we can't use. It's wasted because we're committed and held to this thing. And in many companies, it would be, for me to hit my bonus and whatever else, or be seen to be achieving as a product manager, I've got to execute this thing. I think that's where it becomes a hindrance.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean if instead we focus on using the roadmap to articulate our strategy, to articulate the outcomes we want to achieve, to focus on the big themes, which are unlikely to change as much. And we're accompanying it with a much shorter horizon, so not 12 months, more like 3 months, a release plan of what we are willing to, a horizon that's more realistic. It'll be different in every company, that I could actually build and commit to and know that we can do it. Then I think that's a much more powerful artifact to communicate with the organization.
Mhm.
And it doesn't tie us down and force us to go the wrong way. It's a little bit like saying, I'm going to never let the sat nav reroute, even though there's a car crash in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit in there for 3 hours waiting for the police to take the car away, because that was the commitment I made. Where instead, I could reroute because I found a better way forwards and get to my destination quicker.
It's understanding that it can be flexible, but it's harder said than done. In now playing the devil's advocate, what I feel product people sometimes fail to recognize is like product makes also remove some of the uncertainty and anxiety from people that are paying for salaries, for people that are wanting to sell to clients. Like, what can I say we're going to do in the next 3 months for my investors? What I need, what I can say I can offer in my product, in my sales team. This releases a lot of the uncertainty when they have like these kind of contracts. Like, oh, I know the dev team is working on something, and it's aligned with my vision on the CEO of the company. Roadmaps are there for a purpose, but then when they are used as a contract, and then the rest of the company is not aligned that this can be flexible if we learn something new, more valuable for the company. This is when the bricks in the wall start appearing.
I think the challenge there is that we typically don't have a product strategy articulated in a way that the rest of the business can see and understand.
Exactly that.
And that's the challenge. Like if I'm a marketing director, say I'm a CMO, clearly what I'm paid to do, say I'm focused on lead gen,
Mhm.
I'll bring qualified leads just in the door. The more of them, the better, so that sales can close deals. If I've got on my marketing roadmap, which I would call my campaign plan, which I've probably been able to highlight for the year, where I'm going to spend money, what my media mix is, how I'm going to spend millions of pounds on different channels. If I learn that one of those channels or one of those campaigns is not working, nobody will get upset if I decide to stop doing it. Instead, I'm rewarded.
Mhm.
I stopped wasting money on this thing that didn't work so well because its cost per acquisition was too low. Cost per lead was too high. Instead, we've done more of this one where the cost per lead was lower and more beneficial for the business, and you'll be rewarded for your change of plan.
Mhm.
We fail to put the numbers and the measurements in place, like cost of lead or numbers of acquisition of marketing qualified leads. We fail to put the equivalent in place for our products. And if we fail to make sure everybody understands those, when we do that, which is articulating product strategy, typically it's articulating product strategies by defining customer behaviors that we're trying to impact. Because at the end of the day, if we build a feature and it doesn't change a user's behavior in some way, it can't have created any value. It's impossible. If it's exactly the same as yesterday for them, then and nothing in their world changes, then we clearly created no value. If we don't have that framework in place, those clear indicators in a simple, high-level way, then people can't understand why we're making a change, and we're having to make just trying to educate people on all this theory and thesis of why we're going to not do X and we're going to do Y instead. But when product strategy is clear and well articulated with value indicators, it's easy. It's like, we did this thing, the indicators aren't moving the way they're going to, so we're not going to do any more of this thing. We're going to do something else to make those numbers go the right direction. Everyone's happy then you get rewarded. So you're accountable for the numbers.
Yeah, I need to align also these incentives and objectives
That's it.
in the teams.
If you commit to the wrong things, that's the problem. And my book, The Product Momentum Gap, is all about that. My book with Andrea, we wrote it together. Andrea says it's called The Product Momentum Gap, and it really helps people understand and how to build what we call a product value creation plan. And that is pretty much what I've just described. When that's not there, you have to defend every decision you ever make, rather than everybody else being able to go, oh yeah, that makes sense on their own.
Yeah. Product management exists for so many years, and I still feel, and I've built myself all flavors of product roadmaps one can imagine, and I've seen so many other, and I still feel, however we tweak it, sometimes this is a conflict area between teams of product and other departments. Sometimes we remove the timeline, now, next, later. Sometimes then we switch feature roadmaps for problems roadmap, like want to solve this problem, but then they are too vague and people don't understand in the end of the day what they translate. So far, what I use with most success, it has been the OKR framework, because it aligns with what you just said, trying to bring the strategy of the product more or less in a short gap, and like 3 months, too much ahead. Probably that's why the one I saw worked best. Yeah, super cool. Dave, I want to go just to wrap up this episode a little bit on the confidence topic. The confidence product leader. Why confidence? Why you're bringing these words that I feel now is very kind to you?
Yeah. So, my business is called Confidence In. Newsletter is called The Confident Product Leader. Over the last 6 years, I've coached over 200 product leaders in way over 5,000 hours of one-to-one coaching calls. And that observation, the biggest observation, is people questioning their own confidence, questioning whether they're making the right decision, being uncertain, being about lots and lots of different things. Some of the things we've talked about and some of the things we haven't. And imposter syndrome is extremely real amongst leadership. And they're in a position where when they do feel that sort of challenge, they have to hide it because they can't really demonstrate to everyone else and their teams that they're completely unconfident and unsure about everything. That's going to result in loss of job pretty quickly. So it's back to being lonely. It's a lonely place. So we need to help by helping people perform better and have more confidence in what they're doing. They will level up their leadership game, and even the confidence to try new things. The confidence to adopt calm and really dig into some of those things, like talking about well-being. That can be a scary thing in certain businesses. To admit, I'm going to start the day at 9:30 because I spend the first half hour of the day meditating and then organizing my calendar. That might be a very scary thing to suggest, but if you do it in secret, then you're not encouraging others in your organization to do it. And as a leader, your job is to help others follow you.
Trust and transparent you were mentioning before, like being
Exactly.
honest about it.
So confidence is like a crux. It's a common root cause, and it's also a common having that individual self-esteem. When you feel confident and your self-esteem is strong, you're able to lead from the front, and you're able to lead in a much better place and help those people around you more.
No, I've been discovering this facet of yours. I guess I only talked with you once before, and I'm super looking forward to meet you in Leaders Day. It's obvious for me that you have a ton of wisdom packed from all these thousands of hours you spend with leaders. I think we're going to learn a lot with you. Before I wrap up, is there any question you wish I had asked you?
Not really. I mean, we had a great conversation, and I think that was the exciting point. It was a pleasure to spend this time with you.
you totally broke my script. I didn't think I have a ton of questions that I did not ask just because you gave me so much in the first 5 minutes of this conversation. Thank you so much, Dave, for your time. I want people to get to know you more, so they can reach out to you in the confidentproductleader.com. This is where you write. You also have the book
Yeah, the
that you've
product momentum
co-authored,
gap. It's on Amazon
Product Momentum Gap, that
it's on
people should.
Amazon and Audible.
Yeah. People can also search for the leadership situation model that you mentioned before.
Oh, that's not mine.
That's not yours, but just as a reference.
Yeah, that's a good thing to go and read though and learn about.
Product Leaders Map that you
that's
wrote on
mine.
the Mind the Gap blog. LinkedIn, where can people find you?
Yeah, come to me on LinkedIn. Dave Martin, you'll find me. I also have a little group on LinkedIn with a few thousand product leaders in, called the Confident Product Leader Group. And come and have a look on our training and coaching website, the Confident, which is www.confidencein.co.
Okay, people don't miss any of these references that they just share. And then probably just want to end with the one question. For someone that has been working in product 20 years, now you're coaching people, working with a ton of leaders. What excites you the most now in the future of product ahead? In the next 10, 20 years that we will have still to work ahead of us, what excites you the most for the future?
Oh, that's easy. AI, without a doubt. The challenge, product development, software development, engineering has always been the bottleneck. And because it's been the bottleneck, we don't iterate as fast as we should. We don't take our learnings and improve our products as quick as we could because the life cycle's too slow. And we can, because of the cost of that build, whilst it's counterproductive, we end up overly focusing on how to streamline and manage that process rather than making sure the problems we're solving are the right problems. And as we're seeing in some areas, AI helping engineers move much, much faster by an inordinate amount, which meaning they'll be able to do more. We have the ability to then refocus our energy back on, is this a problem worth solving? And how do we iterate faster? Think of the cycles we can do. If we can build something in a few days, not a few months, in a month we can cycle and iterate 10 times. That's exciting.
Actually, you're starting to see this already. When sometimes it has been faster for the dev team to put live in production an idea than it was to come up with a Figma mockup,
Exactly.
which was crazy. Like, it's the first time I witnessed this. Like devs showing me something faster than a designer will.
And if we've got that, I mean, that means we need the product craft even more than before, because effectively we'll be able to run many more experiments much quicker, which you need more robust view, more robust effort to capture the learnings. The learnings have to be simulated way faster to then feed the next iteration, which people are sitting there waiting to do.
These are, for me personally, I still a bit fuzzy in the cloud if what will be for us, because I see half of the things I did before as a product manager, they're also being speed up. Like all these benchmark of competitors are doing, all these ideation even. I talk a ton with ChatGPT just to exchange ideas, give me different lens. So a ton of work is being also expedited by AI in my own work. So what do you feel will be more relevant in the future with AI for product management? Will be discovery? Will be now the leadership, or what will it change fundamentally in the things we do as product managers?
I mean, ideally, we'll see AI take out a lot of the legwork for us and do a lot of the things computers are better than humans at, simulating large volumes of data, identifying and summarizing, etc. Where we want to, the thing that GPT will be much more difficult for, and for quite some time, is making decisions.
Right.
An
LLM
LLM is not a decision-making tool yet. So we still need the human for that. So we've got to make sure that we're getting the right information in the right way, that we have good, strong decision frameworks like the OODA loop that we can use rapidly. And and the other side of decision making is communication.
Aligning all these departments and everything we talked before.
Yeah. try and align everybody. If the pace goes quicker, if the speed of learning, if AI lets us speed up our pace of learning
Also the chaos.
to an inordinate amount, say 10x, then keeping everybody up to date and aligning them without them just reading very boring material all the time, which puts a lot of burden on individuals. They'll spend more time trying to keep up than they would doing any work. That's going to be the challenge to solve.
I love the way to end this in what's ahead of us. Dave, thank you so much. It has been an utmost pleasure just to be talking with you. It's clear that you have a ton of experience in product, and I think people will benefit a lot to hear from you. So people should really buy the ticket and come to see you in the Leaders Day if there's still some tickets available. And we just reached the hour, so I think we should wrap. It's the second time you come here. Probably should come a third time. Always so much to talk with you. And thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you very much, Pedro.
That's the wrap of the show. Thank you again. And people, don't forget to also follow Productized on LinkedIn and subscribe to this podcast. We'd love to grow this product community, so don't forget to do it. Thank you so much, guys, and see you in the next episode. Have a good one.